Hey guys, Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday to all of you. Welcome back to another episode of Connecting the Dots. If you guys haven't know what are the rewards that you can get from this Battle Pass, make sure you check out this article written by my wonderful colleague Christian Decker because he has got all the rewards in the Battle Pass covered for you. Feel free to check them out on esports.gg. Once again, big thank you to esports.gg for supporting my podcast. Without further ado, let's go into this episode with our guest from Liquid, Blitz. Hey, sup guys, welcome to Connecting the Dots. And today I've got a very special guest with me. It's Blitz from Team Liquid, someone that I've been looking up to for a long time, and that has been inspiring me even before I joined esports as my career. So how are you doing, Blitz? Looking good?
Ah,
I swear, man, you
pretty
guys
good.
always have I always feel like you guys have the best bootcamp among all the teams. It's
Oh
really,
yeah,
really
for
good.
sure. I mean, you can't see it, but to my right, there's like a cinema room. We're probably gonna watch Dune there later. It's gonna be
Oh,
nice.
man, Dune is epic, man. I love that movie. A
Yeah, me
lot of
too.
people. Yeah. Have you watched it before?
Yeah, yeah, but I'm gonna watch it with my friends here, so we're just gonna kind of tank it again. I don't really mind.
Nice. All right. So tell me about how you are feeling right now with your team, because you mentioned in Cap's podcast that Zai and Matu are top in your priority list of players that you want to work with for this new season. So congrats on getting them on your squad. What is it like
Thank you.
for the team atmosphere right now?
Oh, it's really nice. I think probably there's some level of like a honeymoon period right now
Mm-hmm.
because I think everybody gets along, everyone's really happy. Um, yeah, I mean, they bring in a lot of new ideas. Obviously, they played with quite a different team than us. I would say that if we're similar to any team, it'd probably be OG,
Mm-hmm.
whereas, they're a little bit more balanced as a squad and stuff like that on Secret. Um, and yeah, I think it's actually really good team atmosphere right now to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, how are you feeling though? Like you personally, do you think that these new ideas that coming from them really could be eye-opening to you, or are is this atmosphere really inspiring you to give your all for this season to break through what you believe that you can do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these guys are really cool to work with. Like the first few days we were here, I mean, their work ethic is pretty crazy. Like they're here usually from the beginning, and then Matu and Zai will play until like 2, 3 a.m. And so if you see them, they're already that good and they still work that hard, then I think it's pretty inspiring. Because like if you see somebody work that hard, it's hard not to want to work like that yourself. So
Yeah,
I would say,
that's true, because you also mentioned that Quafer was used to be like that as well. You know, just a guy with a very high work ethic, and I think you having some figure like that really at a degree inspire your player. Not to mention now you have two, and they are all proven players as well. Like that's the scary thing, right?
yeah, of course. I mean, it's like they don't have anything to prove to us.
Yeah.
They've Zai has had so many good successes, so many major wins, a lot of top three TIs and stuff like that. Matu obviously won with the previous squad. He's a really, really good player, and so yeah, it's a little nerve wracking, but hopefully we don't disappoint them.
I'm sure you guys won't. Anyway, since we're on Zai, I want to expand that a little bit on your conversation with Cap. You mentioned that Zai, when he talked to you about the roster thing, he mentioned a couple of players that he really want to play with. You know, Sumil, Arteezy, but obviously they are not quite in the range for obvious reasons. But you also mentioned that Zai didn't really care too much about the final roster before he agrees, and not that he wants to join you guys. I talked to Paul from Fnatic, the director of Fnatic. He said that if a player agrees to join the team without knowing too much of the final roster, it is a showing of confidence to take things into his own hands or potential leadership. Do you agree on this? And do you see the same attributes coming from Zai?
Mm. So when we first approached Zai, it was more just like a conversation, like, "Hey, what are you doing next year?" He said he wasn't really sure. I told him like what our likely roster would be, um, and he told me that he didn't really care. And he said, I think part of the reason actually is less about confidence in us and probably more confidence in himself. I think he
Mm-hmm.
has this tacit understanding that no matter what situation he goes into, he will make it work, which I think is pretty crazy. Actually, I think he thinks to himself like, I'm a really good player. If I do what I do well, then everything will kind of work out and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I think it was a little bit different. I mean, I think he has faith in us and stuff like that, but I think it more stems from faith in himself.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, he mentioned a few players to us.
mhm.
Um, Obviously, we were able to get one of them at least. We were able to get Matu, so that was a good thing.
Yeah. So you speak about this high confidence in, in himself, right? Have you encountered any player that has the similar characteristic to Zai? Because I assume in Southeast Asia, at least, there's not a lot of players that are like that. But how about in EU?
Um, in Europe specifically, I would say that Kuro probably has that like same level of conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure that guys like Puppy and stuff do too. I've never worked with them, so it's just me guessing.
Yeah.
But Kuro definitely, I think he's definitely the kind of guy that says like, I will succeed no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. I think a guy like Weehaw too definitely had that level of self-belief and stuff like that.
Mm.
But for us, I mean, my guys are pretty new to Dota. I mean, they only switched from Han like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
so there's a level of like, hey, we don't really know what we're doing. But with Zai, it's nice because he's ultra confident that
Mm-hmm.
whatever he does will work out and stuff like that. So it's very inspiring in that way.
Yeah. Would you say that because that's the case, Zai coming in with so much experience, would you say that he's kind of like a leader right now, even though Insania
Yeah,
is the captain?
absolutely. I think the first few days we allowed him to draft because he
Mm-hmm.
said he wanted to kind of figure out ideas for himself and stuff like that. Oftentimes he leads like the post game talks already. We had a sports psychologist come in.
Ooh.
He immediately told us like, "Hey, I really want this to work." Definitely has a lot of leadership characteristics already.
Cool. So you mentioned about sports psychologist. Is this the first time or the first season you guys are going to implement a psychology system like that?
We had it before. I would say before we probably didn't take it as seriously as we should have. I think that this time is probably the time where we're actually sitting down and we're like, look, we have to commit to this,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it just won't work. And I think in the past, myself included, probably kind of half-assed it. But this time, I think we're giving our sports psychologist a lot more to work with. Like we're giving him actual feedback and stuff like that. So
Mm.
definitely part of the good change with Matu and Zai. So they kind of forced us to be like, hey, it's only going to work if we take it seriously.
Yeah. I don't know how much you can review, but could you maybe share with us something throughout the system that really helped you that you haven't felt before?
In regards to the sports psychologist,
Yeah.
Um, I would say that a lot of it comes down to how we communicate with each other
Mm.
and how we progressively work on like our ourselves when we're not just at the top but when we're at the bottom, and how important setting a culture is throughout winning and losing. Um, so yeah.
Interesting. All right. So I think one thing that I find very surprising is that Zai has taken over some of the responsibility in drafting. So when you guys were playing against cool guys, Zai played his favorite heroes, Spring Breaker and Pudge. Was those from him as well?
Yeah, I mean, he told us like, I want to play Pudge, and we are like, okay. And then he actually asked Matu if it was cool, and Matu's just sitting there like, yeah, I don't care. Like if you want to play Pudge. And so he just picked it. That's how it went.
do you
He
do
actually
you
asked Matu if it was cool.
do you feel like this is going to be what's gonna happen for you guys in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the season's long, and I want my guys
Mm-hmm.
to have fun too.
Yeah.
Part of it is like, if you can have fun playing and stuff like that, it's just a win-win. And that it also demonstrates like a high level of trust, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I want to play this hero. It's like Pudge historically is a grief hero, but he was like, it's gonna work this game. So we just picked it for him, and it's gonna work out. We have
Yeah.
trust in him.
Yeah, in the right hands, it definitely could be very, very strong. Especially IO Patch that we have been seeing a lot recently. Ever since you guys put it up, I've been seeing in some of the Eastern West the CIS region as well. Just opening with OD Patch every single game. That was pretty epic. I think you guys have a lot of influence on that.
That's
And
good.
speaking of this, right, I feel like Team Liquid, even before this roster, in the previous roster, you guys seem to always have a lot of fun, especially when if you throw back to the TI9 match where Insania accidentally clicked the wrong hero, Gyrocopter. The guys still were very energetic, were very supportive for each other. Do you feel like this is the biggest strength of Team Liquid as a whole, or even the identity of you guys? Just a bunch of guys that are very supportive of each other, and it's just a very fun environment to work in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know people are like, so much for family when Tommy and Max left, but I mean, I still talk to both of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
me and Max talk about F1 all the time. He's talking about coming down here and visiting the boot camp. Um, and you wouldn't do that if it was like salty or anything like that,
Yeah.
right? Like we still support each other. I know he still roots for us. After Tommy won his game against Secret, we all sent him a bunch of messages.
Mm.
He messages us all the time before games and stuff like that. Like even though we're playing against each other, we still support him.
Yeah.
We still want him to do well. Like if we got first and they got second, I'd be really happy for that. That'd be awesome, if we could both get to TI. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I think everybody that comes here has an understanding, like, look, we will enable you. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what we told Matu and Zai too. Like, if you have ideas and if you want to lead, we're going to give you space and room to be able to do so. And I think they understand like how deep that goes. Like pretty much any suggestion that they have, we'll try our best to make it happen and follow
Mm.
through. And I'm sure that's pretty good for them too.
Yeah, it feels like a very good way to empower your, especially your players that have been, having so much success and also experience like Matu and Zai. So we talked a lot about Zai just now. Let's talk a little bit about Matu. This is going to be your second time working with Matu after the first team with Team Liquid. Um, so for this experience, do you feel or see any differences or improvement from Matu compared to before when you first worked with him?
I'd say he's a lot more serious now. I think he also has a lot more experience, and so he knows what he wants. Like, for example, he's never been a big talker. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's always been kind of quiet, but nowadays I feel like he's very specific about what he wants out of the game. For example, like after the game, everyone will say what they have to say about the
Yeah.
game, and then Matu will usually say, "Listen, guys, this is the real problem, or this is what we
Mm,
did well," and it's usually just what we should do. Like he's almost always right, so it's very easy in that regard. And I think in the past he wasn't that vocal about um what it was to be
mm,
like a good team and stuff like that, because it was his first big team too, right?
yeah.
Like before Team Liquid, he was on like four anchors and sea captain.
Yes.
Like then he worked with Kuro, so he's gonna have some ideas and stuff like that, and he's gonna get better.
Are you surprised with his improvement compared to the first time you worked with him?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's such a hard worker,
Mm,
and he's just really self-motivated. And people like that, such as Matu, uh, it's always gonna work out for them. It's like a lot of Dota is like you get what you put into it, and he's a guy who grinds. He watches replays. He thinks about the game a lot.
mm,
He's a very good teammate. Like these things, like easy, you'll make it.
yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I want to talk a little bit back to when throw a little bit back to before TI. So you have been a very constant participant in TI. Be it as a coach or as a caster. I believe it must be very tough for you to be watching TI at the sideline this year. After so long. So, however, though, do you feel like watching it from a third perspective gave you some fresh ideas or new thoughts on how to manage or even coaching a team?
Yeah, of course, because every year there's like a new meta, right?
Yeah,
Like Dota is a copycat league. You're gonna do what people uh like for example, I think sports psychologists in Dota at least weren't really utilized or thought of that importantly until we saw OG use them, right?
yeah,
And so you're gonna see that, you're gonna copy it, and then you see what Spirit does and what they do well and how they enable their players and stuff like that and how they stuck together and how they grinded it out.
yeah.
And so of course you're gonna gain a lot of ideas because Dota is like things don't work until somebody shows you that they can work. That's like the
True.
cool part. You're like, oh, these guys, OG will never win a TI until they win a TI, and then they'll show you how they do it. And so it's up to you to, kind of copy some stuff that they do. Like you notice how they support each other in between games. You notice how Seb is out of game and stuff like that. The way that they prepare themselves and stuff like that. Their mental toughness. The way
Mm,
that they try to tilt their opponents and stuff like that. That's stuff like everybody copies. Now it's like you're having teams coordinate five-man tips and stuff like that, and they're
true.
throwing out sprays too.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely inspire a meta. And going to TI, like it's bitter, but at the same time, like you know, the game will be here long after I'm gone, and so I might as well enjoy it
Mm,
and kind of enjoy myself. And what a cool event it is, regardless of whether or not I'm there as a caster or a coach or anything like that. Still
yeah.
pretty inspiring to be a part of.
Yeah, true. Because I feel like in Dota, it's just everyone drawing a lot of inspiration from each other. To your extent, you could maybe even say that we have this mini bandwagon culture in Dota where you just copy whatever that successful people have shown you. But so I feel like with Team Spirit winning TI, a lot of other teams have been starting the next season by scouting new players, by getting really young and unproven players, but has a lot of potential. But you guys brought in Zai and Matu. You guys didn't go for that route. Why is that? Or
Yeah.
do you ever have that idea of getting new players as well, but decided not to?
We had a few conversations. I think there's a few players that we reached out to that we had some level of interest in.
Mm,
Um, but for whatever reason, we didn't really go down that direction. There's a lot of CIS players and even some C players that we reached out to, but uh, just didn't really work out. And then when Zai became an option, kind of a no-brainer. I
yeah.
mean, this guy has behind Miracle the second highest win rate on LAN. It's like
Mm,
how do you not take that guy? And then you get Matumbaman, who I mean he makes a lot of sense, not from just from a play perspective, but from a legacy perspective, right? Liquid told me that they would love to have him back.
yeah.
Victor, our CEO, is a really big fan of his. I know they got along really well. I think as close as a player and a CEO can get to being called friends, like I
Mm,
think they would probably call each other friends. And so yeah, it kind of just worked out in that way. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we did talk to a lot of people, like even some C people contacted us and stuff like that, and vice versa. But things, they kind of worked out better this way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Players like Matu and Zai are definitely too hard to let go of. It's just too hard to say no to them. Um, well, my next question is that I would like to ask, what was your biggest takeaway from the last season, if you have any? Like with that, say, what's the most important thing you think you'll be doing differently for the next season compared to the last year?
I think this year I'm gonna try to enable um, Insania more. I feel like along the way I kind of forgot about him, and I have to remind myself that at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, he's like the glue that makes our team work. Regardless of how good Zai and Matu are, like the person that I personally will believe in the most is Insania.
Mm,
And I feel like I kind of lost sight of that personally, and I think I made things harder for him than easier. But he's a really understanding guy, so luckily, he's giving me another chance and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
So that'll probably be where most of my focus is, because a lot of the times in the past, like in the beginning of the years, we would just always talk the two of us,
Yeah.
and uh, you know, different people require different things on the team, and I felt like I was didn't have enough time for him.
Mm,
And this time, I think I'll try to focus more on that because he's my captain, and I
yeah.
should be trying to enable him. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be what I definitely want to work on. Because when he's good mentally, when he's
Yeah.
thinking about Dota in the right ways, when we have good conversations about Dota, I feel like our team clicks.
Mm. At what point do you feel like you have lost, you have stopped giving him the kind of time that you should be giving him? Or could you talk about, where do you put the time into instead?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a lot of personal problems come up that are personal problems, so I won't get into them too much. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just my fault. I was bad at how do I say, like compartmentalizing time.
Mm,
Uh, and then because of, I mean, I just personally got really, I don't know.
mm,
When you're really close to a situation and it's like the answers are really obvious, but you're too close,
yeah.
so you don't see the solutions so clearly. That's kind of how I felt like I was last year.
I see. Yeah, I mean, in Chinese, there's a saying, third perspective definitely sees things a lot better. Like when you're close in the situation, you kind of miss out the important things sometimes. So I guess the sports psychologist that you guys have definitely could help a lot when it comes to this kind of question, right? This kind of
Mhm.
problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even using him now, I kind of told him some of the problems I had last year, and he's given me a lot of good advice on how I can
Mm,
kind of split up my time in my life and stuff like that. Which, I'm a proud person, and I always think like asking for help is kind of weak, but at the
mm-hmm,
same time, like that's life. I don't
true.
have all the answers. And even this guy that maybe I don't trust at first because I'm like, well, he doesn't know anything about me. Of course he
Yeah.
does. Like human beings, we're not that like different. We're not as or I'm not as interesting as I think I am.
Mm,
I'm probably pretty similar to most people that he's talked to, at least from
mm,
a competitive standpoint. So it's arrogant of me to feel as though he can't contribute anything to my life,
mm.
and help me figure things out. So yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of a story back then for myself. When I just came into the scene, I was coach. I was the assistant manager in Gig Fam. So the boss told me this thing where he says to me, showing weaknesses could be a strength sometimes because you allow people to help you. So I personally feel like it's a very exciting year for you because you are starting to get help, and so with that help you are able to help your players as well. So I would like to ask for you, do you feel the kind of hype as well, like you are now seeing the room for improvement for yourself? How much how excited are you for your future, for your next season at least? Do you think you can finally have a big leap in terms of improvement for yourself?
Oh, for sure. I mean, uh, I feel like I have a better understanding of what my problems are personally and stuff like that, which
Mm,
definitely helps. Even if you feel like you're aware of them and stuff like that, it always helps to have like a third party perspective and things like that. So I mean, because for me, it always felt like my life was like, it's always do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next
mm,
thing, travel, do the next thing. And it was really hard to have perspective, and really evaluate yourself when you're always just focused on work and things like that. So the 4 months off where we didn't make it to TI and we were able
mm-hmm.
to just chill at home, at least it gave me a lot of perspective, which, perspective is such a valuable thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have it before. And now I think I have a better handle on it.
Mm, cool. All right. So at the beginning, we talked about the addition of Matthew and Zai, and definitely sounds like you guys are gelling very well. You guys are having a very fun atmosphere. What do you think are the strengths of the team at the moment right now?
Strengths. We have a lot of ideas. Uh, I think our idea of late game is really good.
Mm,
I think our biggest strength is probably we have a lot of good individually skilled players. I feel like everyone always knows what to do in the
mm,
game. There not a lot has to be communicated and stuff like that. I mean, even our five position player, he's 10.2k MMR or something like that.
crazy.
Like that's yeah, it's like we have a lot of individually skilled players right now. And
Mm.
I think they're in pretty good form.
What would you say is the biggest difference for your team right now compared to last year?
Uh, I mean, I think that these guys are probably a little bit more experienced um, than our previous team was. But that's all. Like, I think our last year team could have done a lot of damage too, and maybe
Mm,
in the future, like if whatever crazy reasons we end up as five again, I think it could still work. It just how do I describe it? Like, the relationship just didn't work like right now. If that makes
yeah.
sense. Like in the future, it could, but
Mm.
you
Yes.
know,
Sometimes it's really about the timing, the fate, and a lot of stuff like that. But yeah,
yeah.
Um, well, what do you think are the potential obstacles then that for your team right now that is going to face soon?
Um, I don't know. I think maybe some level of complacency. I think our team is
Mm,
like we have to force ourselves to work hard sometimes.
I see.
We have to like remember, and not just like work hard, but work smart.
Mm,
It's not just about like grinding games and stuff like that. It's like we have to snap ourselves out of it and say like, what are we actually getting out of these games and stuff like that, instead of
mm.
just mindlessly playing. And I think this team can definitely get lazy. So probably focusing on not just mindlessly playing and always having like some idea of what we want to do and how we want to progress is going to be pretty important.
Mm, okay. All right. I have a hypothetical question here. Maybe not hypothetical, but if you would to describe your team with NBA team, which NBA team would you think that is most is the closest to your team right now?
NBA team.
Yeah.
I say like, I mean, ideally, I would like to play like the Spurs or
Okay.
like the Warriors. I want like a very, people play for each other. It's just
Mm,
good, smart, basketball.
yeah.
Like everybody does their role. Everyone understands. We don't need superstars. We just need people to play within the system, and it'll work out. And a lot of trust in each other.
Actually, before I ask this question, I kind of think to myself, you guys do remind me of Golden State Warrior a lot. It's just a lot enabling, super fun environment. And yeah, it just, everyone feels like genuinely happy for each other's success.
Yeah, I mean, I love that team. I read a lot of what Steve Kerr says. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
your culture is not just dependent on winning; it's also like when you're losing and stuff like that. And I 100% agree with that. It's easy to work with when everything is going well. but how hard is it when things aren't going well and your team's arguing and things are difficult?
Mm. I mean, for you, you follow a lot of traditional sports, football, F1, NBA. Is there anyone that gives you a lot of inspiration when it comes to coaching?
Yeah, I mean, Greg Popovich, he's
Mm,
the Spurs coach. He once said like you got to treat your players the same for the game as you
mm,
do after the game, and I take that to heart. Just because somebody plays well doesn't make them a better person. Just because somebody played poorly doesn't
mm.
mean that they're any less of a person before the game. And so I think if you treat your players like that, you'll get more out of them rather than putting a lot of your expectations and hopes and stuff like that on them. They don't really need that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's very well said. All right, this is close to what I've got for you. My last question would be, in your opinion, which teams would be your biggest challenge this season, and why are they?
Um, let's see. I think Secret, obviously,
Mm.
just because they're crazy good. They'll always be crazy good. They have amazing players. Poppy's an incredible captain. Um, I think Kuro will always kind of figure things out. I mean, you almost saw them get to the major, right? They
Yeah.
were so close. Or TI. They're really, really scary. I think Tundra
Mm.
will always be. Um,
Dark
right
Horse.
now, I feel like they're really, really hot.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're a really good dark horse right now. I don't even think they're a dark horse anymore. I think everyone kind of knows they're really good.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I think OG could be really good. I mean, we saw how they absolutely crushed Secret.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of Zoomers on their team, like two 16-year-old guys.
Yeah.
They don't
Crazy.
give a shit about who Kuro or Puppy are.
Mm-hmm.
They've never even heard of like these guys. They were like 10 years old when Matu won TI.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck. Like these guys are old and washed up to them, so they could
Mm.
always be really dangerous because they don't have that fear that the rest of us do.
Yeah, that's
They haven't
true.
been like they haven't been getting owned by Puppy their entire lives. Just they just exist.
Mm. Yeah, do you think this kind of inexperience could be a strength sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I read somewhere that like gymnasts
Mm-hmm.
are better when they're younger because they don't have fear. They're willing to do things and go for things that adults are not because as adults you have this like you have things in your head like whenever we play I think like fuck if we lose this game can I pay my mortgage? Whereas like you're 16 years old you're just you're pressing buttons and you're laughing at guys
Yeah,
because they're slower than you.
cool. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think in Chinese, there's a in those kung fu movie there always there's always some saying that if you want to learn the strongest skill in the world, you have to be a blank paper, so that
Yeah,
it's easy for you to learn. Do you agree with that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's like pretty obvious because, like, for example, I'm trying to think of like the new skills that I've learned in the past like 5 years as an
Mm.
adult. Fucking impossible. Like, I keep telling myself I'm gonna learn how to play the guitar, and I just won't ever do
Oh,
it. I just know that I will never do it. It will
there,
never happen.
there are just too many things in our life in adulthood to stop you from doing that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Just things are busy. Like
true.
life, it just keeps going.
Yeah. All right. My last question here. So you guys mentioned about you first mentioned secret as the first one that is most challenging for you. Do you
Mhm.
think having Zai and Matu here could bring you guys advantage to something that you guys have never known about secret? Is there anything that the two of them told you about Team Secret that fascinate you that you never knew about?
Um, yeah, but I can't say it. I can't say it on here.
Ah, okay. It's fine. It's fine. If there's something that you could disclose a little bit, is there anything?
Um, Nah, because it's gonna sound. No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
It's
It's not gonna
alright.
sound good. I don't want to sell them out.
Okay, it's alright. It's
It's
alright.
not my place. You can ask them yourself sometime.
I hope there's a chance like that. Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's all I've got for you. So thanks for having this conversation with me. I am inspired by you a lot. I think I told you this as well. But at the end, do you have any shout outs that you want to give for your former teammates or your teammates right now or anyone that you love in your life?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to everyone that supported us. Thank you, especially to Tommy and Max, Taiga and Quakefa.
Mm,
They made me and the team what we are today, and I hope they understand that. Thanks to Sumel as well. he really helped shape a large portion of our team as well. So I hope they understand like that they were really important for this journey.
Mm.
And yeah,
All right. All right, that's all. Thank you, Blitz, and wish you guys good luck and best of luck in the coming season. Thank you.
thanks, man.
Bye bye.